I can you make me co-host and Brian too?
Yep.
Thank you. Hey Brian, is your video working?
No.
No.
Audio. Keyboard accessories. And I got a haircut and everything for this meeting.
Anya, so I've made you the host, and you are streaming now.
You don't seem to have any.
Here.
No. Hit stop and start again.
That looks good. Oh.
You're not even showing up. That's weird.
Okay.
Now you are, but you're not. There's no video of you. Okay, good. Okay, to everyone who's following along live stream, please look in your inbox. You've been sent a new meeting link because we had some technical issues.
Show self view. And then yes.
I don't have Mr. Nasser's phone number.
I do.
Maybe that's. Yeah, I do. I got it.
Okay. All right. Are we streaming and are we?
Yep. We're streaming, and I'm no longer the host. Anya is the host. You are a co-host. So you'll probably be able to roll from here on out.
Okay.
And Steve. And David Kramer.
So is it okay if I drop off, do you think?
I think it is, Dan. Anya, do you think we're okay?
Yeah, except we still have to find David Kramer and Steve. We don't have a phone.
Okay, hold on.
All right.
I can call them. I think we're all set, Dan. Thank you.
Right.
Thanks, Dan.
Sorry for the mix-up. Take care. Nice to meet you all. I'll have to do official introductions at another time. All right. Take care.
Let's see. I can. Ooh, I do not want to do that. Still nothing.
Hello?
Hello, good evening, everyone. Sorry for the technical difficulties. I'm looking at the screen now. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 commission members. We're still missing Steve. So Ed, if you want to read the public notice and start the meeting, I will call Steve to get him on the
Okay.
in the
Can
meeting.
you hear me?
Hear you fine.
Okay, good. All right. Okay, notice is hereby given as set forth in City Municipal Code Section 228. Public hearings will be held by the ILPC at 5:30 PM Tuesday, October 20, 2020, via the electronic conferencing platform Zoom, as allowed by Executive Order 202.1, continuing temporary suspension and modification of laws related to the disaster emergency, at which time the commission will consider the following applications for material changes or alterations. 114 Orchard Place, East Hill Historic District, proposal to replace concrete walkways and a landscape stair on the south and east elevations with stone. 118 Heights Court, Cornell Heights Historic District, proposal to replace a concrete walkway on the north elevation with stone and install another walkway paved in stone between the front walk and the driveway. 705 East Buffalo Street, East Hill Historic District, proposal to replace a deteriorated railroad tie retaining wall along the south property line with a precast concrete block wall. And 122 Wade Avenue, Cornell Heights Historic District, retroactive request for approval for the replacement of an unspecified number of wood 1/1 double hung windows with composite wood window inserts. All interested parties will be given an opportunity at the hearing to be heard in person or by agent respecting these applications. So we will begin with the 114 Orchard Place, East Hill Historic District. Proposal to replace concrete walkway and a landscape stair on the south and east elevations with stone. So is somebody here to?
Yeah, I think that's my cue. It's good to see everyone. Well, and not too long ago. So hope you've been well since. So I am here to ask your permission to replace some damaged concrete pathways and stairs on my property with stone. I also just been alerted that my internet connection is unstable.
Oh no,
Let me
he's
pass
not
it.
talking.
So if you need me to repeat anything, please let me know. We want to take away several things. So I'll cover that first, and then I'll describe what we'd like to replace them with. And if at any point you want to interrupt with questions, please do. The first thing we want to do is remove a bunch of damaged concrete. That includes a side yard path, a front path, 3 front steps, and failing cheek walls on either side of those steps, all of which I've sent photos of. And we want to replace those with 2 different kinds of stone. One proposal is a little more straightforward, so I'll start with that, and the other has a backstory, so I'll follow there. So as you'll see on page 2 of our application, items 1 and 2 refer to the proposed replacement for the front walk and steps. We'd like to take up the existing damaged concrete front walk and replace it with a patterned bluestone path. And we'd like to remove the damaged concrete steps and replace them with also bluestone steps to lead up from the sidewalk to the new proposed path. You'll see on the same page that we hope we can convince you not to require us to replace the cheek walls. Dan Segal, who we've been working with, our landscaper, believes that the existing cheek walls are not serving any structural purpose, and that the proposed bluestone path can be adequately secured with some moderate plantings. So that's our first proposals for the front elevation of the house. And then to replace the side path in our we modified our proposal, and that's what you see here today, to do a number 2 stone path. And the reason for that, described in the proposal, is that we made a little mistake having a drain installed on our property, not realizing it would be backfilled with stone. So we talked with Dan and we talked with Brian about how to make that look intentional. And I'm happy to walk through that proposal with you if you have any questions. That's probably enough to get us started.
Okay. So, any comments? I mean, it seems to me the bluestone is an improvement over the broken concrete that we see in the photographs. It's a significant improvement.
I think it's important. Sorry, Ed, I didn't want to cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's worth reminding everybody that the commission doesn't make people remove things that are pre-existing. So if you don't want to remove something, we don't make you do that. So if you want to leave something, that's perfectly fine under our law.
Okay, just to clarify, I would like to remove all of this concrete. Very
Right,
much.
but you didn't, if I understood your presentation, you do not want to remove the cheek walls. Is that correct?
We would like to remove them, but not replace them.
Okay. Oh, thank you for clarifying. I thought I misunderstood that. Okay, thanks.
No problem.
So is the width of the proposed walk going to be the same width as the concrete walk, or are you going to widen it out to the width of the front stairs?
So it will be wider. It will not be as wide as the front stairs, but if you, would it be helpful if I shared my screen to, I'd be happy to do that. So we're all looking at, oh no, I'm not allowed. Okay, well, if you look at the picture of our house, the front elevation, you'll see that the existing concrete path is not centered on the stairs that lead up to the front door. So our plan is to widen the path just like a foot, a little bit less, so that it's centered on those stairs. So it'll be 4 feet wide total, and it's not quite that wide right now.
So could you give us some more details then about the part that's going to be the gravel? I mean, I'm looking at the picture. Is it basically going to be what we see in the picture, or are you going to be altering? I mean, I know it's going in, you're going to be extending it in different directions, but will the final walkway look pretty much like what you're showing in that photo? As far as
yeah, so there are 2 relevant images here. One of them is the final photograph that shows our existing concrete path on the left and what is currently the backfilled French drain to its right. And the other one is the very professional sketch that I made of what I would like to do on the property. So what we're proposing is extending this number 2 stone backfill drain all the way to the driveway. It's not the last one to it, and then bringing it around to connect to the front path. So we'd be extending it, but we'd also be planting on either side so that it's got clean edges and looks like a path and not a mistake.
okay.
That is our great hope. And I don't know that this matters to you, but it mattered to Dan, who's doing the work. The stones look a lot nicer now that it's rained. So this was the day that they were placed in the hole. They're a little dusty.
Okay. Maybe this is a good time to open discussion to the public. Can I have a motion to open to the public, please?
So moved.
David, second? Sue, okay. Any public?
Bobby can have it next time.
No, okay. Motion to close.
Avi, take it away.
Avi, okay. Second. Somebody, okay, David. Well, any concerns? Anybody want to discuss
I have
this? further?
I have several comments to make, if I could.
Yes.
I noticed, like David, that the walk's narrower than the steps, the wooden steps. I also noticed that, and I didn't notice it was not centered on the steps. I think it would be most attractive if it was actually the width of the steps, but at a minimum, I'd like to see the walk come up and then have a widened landing that's the width of the steps. If not just for looks, also for safety, because when you step off, come down the side of the steps with a railing, they might not step onto the flagstone walk. I have the same comment about another application today. Secondly, the previous fence application had the fence coming out 4 feet, a 3-foot gate, and then 4 more feet, I believe it was. And I was wondering if that still coordinates with the new walk location, because the walk, I believe, is further away from the house in this new scheme. Thirdly, the flagstone, the application states that the original intention was to use 2x2 stepping stones. I just want to comment that the gravel base that's been installed would actually make a good base to put stones on if that was still desired. So width of the walk, location of the gate and the fence, is that staying the same? And the stepping stones could still be approved, in my opinion.
Yeah, happy to take those 3 questions in turn. So regarding the width of the front path, Dan had suggested 4 feet because that's the standard width of the bluestone stairs that we intend to install on so there are 2 sets of stairs leading from the sidewalk to the front path and then leading from the front path to the front door. And the width of the proposed bluestone stairs, the standard width, is 4 feet. So it would just be a little bit narrower than the wooden steps, but that's the reasoning behind that 4-foot width proposal. And yeah, we agree that centering it would be nice. Whether this will interfere with the fence, no. The drawing that I gave you is not to scale, so it looks quite a bit farther from the existing concrete path than it is. So our plans for the fence remain intact. The location of one of the gates will move slightly, but the footprint will be consistent with the permit that we received. And then, yes, it's true that we could in the future put stepping stones on top of this number 2 stone path. And Dan mentioned that as well. Our preference would be to start small. To accommodate
I could just clarify, I was suggesting that there would be like a landing, a stone landing at the base of the wooden stairs that was the width of the stairs, and then it could narrow to a 4-foot walk.
Oh, on the front?
Yeah.
If that's something you guys want to require, we will certainly do it, but we hope that this is adequate.
Am I making myself clear in terms of what I'm suggesting?
So I believe you're suggesting we're talking about the front walk.
Yeah, just at the base of the wooden steps.
Yeah, you're like. Sorry, you froze a little bit. Am I understanding you correctly?
We couldn't hear what
We
you were
missed-
saying.
we missed
You
that.
have to repeat it.
Okay.
You might
Sorry.
want to turn off your video. I know I sometimes have problems, and so sometimes that can make the audio work better.
So what I'm understanding is that you're suggesting we add a little bit of stone on either side of the proposed bluestone front path, just at the part connecting to the wooden stairs to kind of funnel out to match that width. Is that correct?
That's correct. It could either be tapered or I think it's more attractive, and it's also a safety issue. Maybe we're not. It's a suggestion.
We would be open to that if the commission deems it necessary. I don't have strong feelings at this time, and I don't have a quote from Dan.
Okay. Any concerns by the commission members concerning that at the base of the steps as a requirement?
Looks like if it's going to be made a foot wider, then it would be just about as wide as the open area of the stairs. I mean, it's hard to tell. The steps are a bit wider than the 4-foot path is going to be, but there are railings on either side of the steps. So it looks like perhaps, yeah.
Sorry, the existing walk is 4 feet. The stairs are 6'8".
Oh, the existing walk is 4 feet. Oh, okay. I thought the walk was going to be made a foot wider to be 4 feet then.
I measured it 4 feet.
Is it going to be made a foot wider still?
I thought the walk was a little bit narrower than 4 feet wide. And my understanding is that Dan would be extending it just a bit to center it on the stairway. I can't say that I measured it super recently though.
Okay.
These measurements are usually very accurate in my experience.
I believe that. So
Yeah. I think, I mean, from a practical standpoint, I agree with Steve that I think it makes more sense to have, you're always stepping down, because a lot of times people might, maybe not you, but other people might be holding onto the railing and stepping down onto a firm spot as opposed to grass from the staircase makes more sense. So from a design standpoint, I agree with Steve. From a Historic Preservation Commission standpoint, I don't see a legal requirement by any stretch to do it. I think it becomes a preference. I think it's a design decision that makes sense, but I wouldn't require it as part of the approval process.
I
Okay.
agree with that.
Yes, do I. I had a question on the sidewalk from the side door that goes to where the drainage ditch fill is. Is that being taken out and changed?
yes, we propose to take out the concrete path that you see on the side of the, on that last image. We plan to take it out, replace, put grass in, and add kind of a connected pebble path that connects that side stairs to the existing like drain cover pebble. Both X's where we plan to take out the concrete path, and squiggles where we plan to put in the pebble, the extended pebble path. Just a quick question. This is backtracking a little bit. And you all approve this plan, would it be possible to have the kind of tapered front path written into the permit as an option, so we don't have to come back and get your approval should we decide to make that design choice? As an option, but not necessarily a requirement.
We could express it as a preference at the end of the resolution, could we? But not.
Yeah, absolutely. We've done that before.
Okay,
Yes.
great. Thank you.
Preference but not required.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Any other comments concerning the proposal? Okay. So could we have a volunteer to read resolution RA?
I'll do it.
Thank you.
Sure. Resolution RA. Oh, can somebody remind me where do we start again? Is it at the resolved?
Yes.
All right. Resolved that the ILPC has made the following findings of fact concerning the property and the proposal. As identified in the City of Ithaca's East Hill Historic District Summary Statement, the period of significance for the area now known as the East Hill Historic District is 1830 to 1932. As indicated in the New York State Building Structure Inventory Form, 114 Orchard Place was constructed in 1913 or 14 in the Craftsman style. It is one of several single-family homes on Orchard Place that was added to the East Hill District in 2014. The property is located at the northwest corner of the intersection of Orchard Place, Blair Street, and the lot slopes from east to west. constructed within the period of significance of the East Hill Historic District and possessing a high level of integrity. The property is a contributing element in the East Hill Historic District. In consideration of this and all approvals of proposals for alterations, new construction, or demolition in historic districts, the ILPC must determine that the proposed exterior work will not have a substantial adverse effect on the aesthetic, historical, or architectural significance and value of either the landmark, or if the improvement is within a district, of the neighboring improvements in such district. In considering architectural and cultural value, the Commission shall consider whether the proposed change is consistent with the historic value and the spirit of the architectural style of the landmark or district in accordance with Section 228-6 of the Municipal Code. Making this determination, the Commission is guided by the principles set forth in Section 228-6B of the Municipal Code, as further elaborated in Section 228-6C, and by the Secretary of the Interior Standards for Rehabilitation, and in this case specifically the following principles and standards. Principle number 2 is the historic features of the property located within and contributing to the significance of a historic district shall be altered as little as possible, and any alterations made shall be compatible with both the historic character of the individual property and the character of the district as a whole. Principle number 3, new construction located within a historic district shall be compatible with the historic character of the district within which it is located. Standard number 2, the historic character of a property will be retained and preserved. The removal of distinctive materials or alteration of features and spaces that characterize a property will be avoided. Standard number 9, new additions, exterior alterations, or related new construction shall not destroy historic materials that characterize the property. The new work shall be differentiated from the old and shall be compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features to protect the historic integrity of the property and its environment. Standard number 10, new additions and adjacent or related new construction shall be undertaken in such a manner that if removed in the future, the essential form and integrity of the historic property and its environment would be unimpaired. With respect to principle number 2, standard number 2, and standard number 9, the replacement of the concrete with stone will not remove distinctive materials and will not alter features and spaces that characterize the property. Also, with respect to principle number 2, principle number 3, and standard number 9, the regular ashlar bluestone walkway, monolithic bluestone steps, and pea gravel path is compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features of the property and its environment. With respect to standard number 10, the walkway, steps, and path can be removed in the future without impairment of the essential form and integrity of the historic property and its environment. Resolved that based on the findings set forth above, the proposal will not have a substantial adverse effect on the aesthetic, historical, or architectural significance of 114 Orchard Place in the East Hill Historic District as set forth in Section 228-6. And be it further resolved that the Ithaca Landmarks Preservation Commission determines that the proposal meets criteria for approval under Section 228-6 of the Municipal Code. Be it further resolved that the ILPC approves the application for a certificate of appropriateness with the following remark. It's not really a condition.
I would suggest that you add it as a condition for staff level approval. That way the preference is in there and also the ability to approve it without coming back to the commission.
Okay. All right. Do you want to insert that language, Brian?
Yeah, I can insert that, but it'll sound something like staff is authorized to approve modifications to the landing of the front walk leading to the front steps or something similar to that.
All right.
And I would like to add a reference to the International Residential Code, Section R311.7.6, landings for stairways, where it states there shall be a floor or landing at the top and bottom of each stairway. The width perpendicular to the direction of travel shall be no less than the width of the flight served, and the depth and the direction of travel shall be not less than 36 inches.
Steve, can you send me that citation, please, and I will insert that into the resolution.
Okay, do we have a second on the resolution as read and altered? Sue? Okay. All in favor? Raise your hand so we can see. Okay, thank you. Great, resolution is passed and good luck in your project.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
That's the commission. Can you say thank you?
Hi.
Thank you. And thank you especially, Brian, for talking us through the last
Yeah.
minute adjustment.
Not a problem at all.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Have a good night.
Okay. Next, we have 118 Heights Court, Cornell Heights Historic District, proposal to replace a concrete walkway on the north elevation with stone and install another walkway paved in stone between the front walk and the driveway. Do we have somebody to present?
Hi, that would be me.
Oh, okay. Very good. So if you could give us a summary of your project.
So this all came about when the driveway, the walkway project started on Heights Court. They replaced the road, which is great. And they also replaced the walkway, which was very old and eroded. And so when that was done, one of the things that got fixed was the slope of the driveway, which was such that the walkway had to be tilted, which was not very wheelchair accessible. And so as a result, they cut out, the city contractor cut off part of my driveway asphalt and is going to redo it. And so that then meant that the asphalt of the driveway would have different colors. And so I asked Brian, can I have it resurfaced so that it looks even across the driveway, not one side is dark and the other is light. So he said that's no problem. At the same time, I noticed that the current walkway from the sidewalk to the front door, to the steps, was in the same concrete as the old eroded walkway that was just replaced. And so I saw it as an opportunity to replace that for something that looks nicer, that's more in keeping with the houses in the neighborhood, which is to use flagstone in order to go from the sidewalk to the steps to the house. At the same time as that happens, I thought, well, if we're already resurfacing the driveway and replacing the walkway stones to the front door, why not also add a little section that connects the driveway with the main walkway to the door, which currently has some stones lying around there that I don't know who put there. They're sort of not properly installed. Someone just put them there at some point. And so why not make that in kind, just the same blue stone as well. So that's the short story of it. And I'm happy to take any questions or clarify, because this all really came about as the sidewalk project happened. And so I quickly put in the application without having proper quotes at that point. But Brian was incredibly helpful in advising in the process.
Okay. So I'm sure everybody has read the resolution. I believe this is the property that was built later and therefore is not a contributing building. Is that correct?
That's correct. So the historic district was nominated for local historic status in 1989. And so the 50-year cutoff at that point was 1938 they used. And this house was built in 1939, so just after the period of significance, which is kind of unfortunate and underscores the need to resurvey some of our older historic districts. But that being said, it is considered non-contributing, which changes the discussion, or should frame the discussion this evening.
Okay.
So Brian, in that context, it matters then how this project impacts the rest of the historic district, correct?
That's correct.
Right. So I think it'll be fine. So I don't think it adversely impacts the historic,
Right.
historic district.
Fine to me too.
And it's fine with me as well. In fact, there's a lot of that type of flagstone in the neighborhood, so I think it's perfect.
I
Okay.
have a similar concern to the previous application. The walk is 4 feet wide and the steps are 6 feet wide. And again, I would recommend that a landing be provided at the base of the stairs, the full width of the stairs, for aesthetic and safety reasons.
That
Okay.
makes sense.
Code compliance.
Brian, I thought Steve raised a very interesting point on the last project. How does that correlate to building code requirements in the city unrelated to the Preservation Commission?
So when this project is reviewed by the building inspector, I'm sure the requirement for a landing would be flagged. And so the applicant would be required to add the landing if it was missing from the original application. But it is a good point, and it's one of the reasons why we require an architect on our commission, so that items like this can be addressed at a meeting. So they can be written into the resolution and make sure that projects are planned appropriately.
Thank you, Steve.
I think it'd be even better if the clients would hire an architect.
Could we have a motion open to the public?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Thank you, Caitlin. Anybody out there?
I am not seeing anybody, and we have received no comments to this position, to this point.
I move we close public discussion.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
You can have it.
Okay, any other discussion? Could we have a volunteer to read resolution RB?
I can read it.
Thank you.
And I'll start with the first resolve. Resolve that the ILPC has made the following findings of fact concerning the property and the proposal. As identified in the City of Ithaca's Cornell Heights Historic District Summary Statement, the period of significance for the area now known as the Cornell Heights Historic District is 1898 to 1937. As indicated in the New York State Building Structure Inventory Form, the Garrison Colonial Revival Style Residence at 118 Heights Court was constructed between 1939 and 1940. Constructed outside of the periods of significance of the Cornell Heights Historic District, the property is a non-contributing element of the Cornell Heights Historic District. In consideration of this and all approvals of proposals for alterations, new construction, or demolition in historic districts, the ILPC must determine that the proposed exterior work will not have a substantial adverse effect on the aesthetic, historical, or architectural significance and value of either the landmark, or if the improvement is within a district of the neighboring improvements in such district. In considering architectural and cultural value, the Commission shall consider whether the proposed change is consistent with the historic value and spirit of the architectural style of the landmark or district in accordance with Section 228-6 of the Municipal Code. In making this determination, the Commission is guided by the principles as set forth in Section 228-6B of the Municipal Code as further elaborated in Section 228-6C. And by the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation. And in this case, specifically the following principles and standards. Standard number 9, which we've already talked about that. As a contributing structure, 118 Heights Court by definition does not possess historic materials or features that are subject to protection under the principles enumerated in Section 228-5 of the Municipal Code or the Secretary of the Interior standards. The ILPC's evaluation of the proposed project is therefore limited to the assessment of the impact of the proposed work on adjacent historic structures and on the Cornell Heights Historic District as a whole. with the guiding principle being that the proposed work must not further reduce the compatibility of the non-contributing structure within its historic environment. With respect to standard 9, the proposed stone walkways are compatible with the massing size, scale, and architectural features of the property and its environment. Resolved that based on the findings set forth above, the proposal will not have a substantial adverse effect on the aesthetic, historical, or architectural significance of the Cornell Heights Historic District as set forth in section 228-6. And be it further resolved that the Ithaca Landmarks Preservation Commission determines that the proposal meets criteria for approval under section 228-6 of the municipal code. And be it further resolved that the ILPC approves the application for a certificate of appropriateness. And do we need to add any conditions to that? Maybe the code?
I would add a similar one to have a landing at the base of the stairs that's with the stairs.
Okay.
Agreed.
Okay,
Agreed.
all right. All in favor of the resolution?
We need a second.
Oh, second. Do we have a second? Avi. Okay. All in favor, please raise your hand so we can see them. Okay, everybody. Yes. Everybody. All right.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, and have a good evening, everybody.
Well,
Right.
yes, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, next we have 705 East Street, East Hill Historic District. Proposal to replace a deteriorated railroad tie retaining wall along the south property line with a precast concrete block wall. Do we have somebody who will present this? Joe. All right. So if you could give us a summary of the project.
So there is a fairly small railroad tie retaining wall on the southeast line that has been deteriorating over time and has reached the point where something needs to be done about it. And we propose to replace it with basic stacking concrete blocks. It's not terribly big, it's not terribly visible. So that's the medium we're going to try to use.
Brian, I wondered if you could talk a little bit before we get into the project in detail, a little bit about railroad ties as historic materials. Because in my understanding of them, they're usually secondary or tertiary materials that have been added at some later junction.
Correct.
But if you have any additional information, I didn't do an in-depth research on it, but we keep having this type of project appear with railroad ties replacement. So I think we should probably at least be on the record a little bit more about how we're treating railroad ties and the rationale behind them.
Right. So railroad ties were typically used as a secondary retaining wall material. They weren't, I don't think they were ever felt to be particularly aesthetically pleasing, but they were a readily available resource that was affordable to construct retaining walls such as the one at this property. The issue with them today is railroad ties were coated with a substance that makes them toxic to the environment, so they're no longer available for commercial use or for uses like this, and so to replace this wall in kind is not possible. Does that answer your question, Caitlin?
Yep, thanks. I wanted to kind of get it on the record about how this material is treated, because it's one that we're more commonly seeing show up, but is not one that ever gets a lot of attention as a historic material. So thank you.
Okay.
And there's a good chance it was put in after a while after the building was built, correct?
That's my assumption. There is a lower stone retaining wall that kind of skirts around the property's perimeter, and then this retaining wall was installed inside of that. So my guess is that the retaining wall was added to provide a level area to install additional parking when much of the lot was paved in the 1980s.
I know in other cases, the retaining walls made out of this material were added post mid-century when railroad usage declined and these materials were repurposed. And so that may or may not be the case. My question in that, thank you, Brian, for bringing up about the other wall, is from a structural standpoint, Steve, I wondered if you could, well, and as the person who is managing the project, Joe, I was worried about the structural stability and safety of that older wall that does have historic integrity.
So that wall is also failing.
Okay.
It is our intent just to rebuild it. It's field stone.
Mhm.
It's been rebuilt, it appears, several times. Some has mortar in it, some doesn't. We're just going to restack it
Okay.
in place.
Are you planning to mortar it, or because I mean the concrete blocks are really heavy, so I was wondering about that.
I would leave that up to our engineer that we've hired.
Okay.
Joe, is it your intent to only rebuild the portion of the retaining wall that will be in front of the new retaining wall, or is your intent to rebuild the entire retaining wall along the perimeter?
It is my intent to rebuild any part of that, any of that old retaining wall that is in danger of falling over.
Okay.
It extends 3/4 the length of the line on the Quarry Street side.
Okay, but you're not planning. Oh, so you do plan on repairing the wall on the Quarry Street along the sidewalk?
Yeah, just as a part of routine maintenance, yes.
Okay. So there are parts of that wall that need some significant attention. Perhaps we can meet on site to talk about the proposed repair work there, because it does look like the retaining wall is leaning.
Yeah, sure, that's fine. I
Okay.
sort of felt that as a separate part of the project.
Okay.
It's just a repair and not a major upgrade.
I do want to observe that the neighboring property to the south is the house where Nabokov lived when he wrote Lolita. And for folks in my trade, but for many other people, millions of people, that's practically a holy site. And so I would like to see it as neatly and prettily done as possible, because a lot of people come there just to be there and to take that in where Lolita originated. So I'm just going to put that out there.
Interesting.
What will be the dimension of the blocks that you're proposing to use? I'm looking at that, but I'm sure it's in here somewhere.
2 foot by 2 foot by 6 foot, I believe.
2 by 6, okay.
Well, I just got on to the meeting.
Is this David Beer?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're okay, but they haven't opened the public hearing yet, so just hold on.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm not that familiar with Zoom stuff.
It's unclear to me from the plan of the lot that has a circled scope of work area, what the extent of the replacement of the wall. Does it extend up but beyond the house that I believe is the Nabokov house? Or does it stop short of the house? Because that area there is also leaning. It's about only 3 feet from the house.
That is included in the scope. The wall tapers as it goes up the slope. And it's about 3/4 the way up that house before it goes even with the terrain.
Where's the property line in relation to this new wall and the old wall on the south? I would assume it would be at the face, at the lower face of the stone wall would be the property line. Is that correct?
On which side? On which direction?
On the south side of the existing stone retaining wall, I would assume I would assume this whole wall was built as part of the original property. So I would assume that stone wall is on this property.
I don't know for sure, the stone wall portion.
Because the section states that it's on the neighboring property. Is it the intent to step the top of the wall as it rises up the hillside and lay all the blocks perfectly flat, or to slope the blocks?
To step the block slightly.
How would that coordinate with the proposed guardrail on the top?
We would fasten it in some fashion. I was waiting for the engineer to specify that.
What is the exterior face of these concrete blocks? Are they perfectly smooth, or do they have a texture of some kind?
Smooth.
I don't think this wall really can be characterized as very small. I think it's a big wall.
You know, folks, I'm feeling as if we're not going to be able to resolve that much tonight. I'm going to propose a site visit where maybe we have the engineer there and a sample of the material that's proposed, so that we really can, you know, think about this more holistically.
Well, especially if that stone part of the retaining structure is on the neighbor's property, this is an awful lot of weight being placed above that. I mean, how's that going to be stabilized? I mean, I don't understand the engineering of that, but it just doesn't seem to me it would be easily done unless that stone wall is totally removed and replaced with the concrete.
I think a site visit is a good idea, David.
I'm not particularly fond of these huge concrete blocks, especially in a historic district. We approved some at another place that were even worse, with fake cobblestones cast into them. There are nicer surfaces if this material is to be approved. For instance, on Coddington Road at the corner of Burns Road, in the last year or two, a large retaining wall was placed, and at least it has some kind of a rock face texture on it. It's not just smooth.
Maybe Brian can remind us, but it's my recollection that at least when I've voted in favor of concrete retaining walls, it's always been on the rear facade. That if anybody else could see it, it might be the adjoining property owner, but it was not visible from the street. And I think that makes a difference.
Yeah, the only other property I can think of where these blocks have been approved is 934 Stewart Ave. And that's a non-contributing resource in the Cornell Heights Historic District. And the blocks were installed in a location that's not visible from the public way and really isn't visible from any of its neighbors.
Yeah. Should we open to the public at this point to have a public discussion?
I move to open.
All right. Second. Do we have anybody to discuss this in the public?
Yes, there is. There's David Beer is here, and I'm gonna ask him to unmute if I can find him in the list. He was here.
He's here.
Okay, there we go.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hear you fine.
Yeah, okay. So my name's David Beer. My parents own the houses at 802 East Seneca, 804 East Seneca, right next door, and the little green cottage, which is 804 and a half East Seneca, which is, 3 feet from the retaining wall that's being proposed to be replaced. And I just want to comment that, I agree that the railroad tie retaining wall is in bad shape and should be replaced. My concerns are, as you all voiced earlier, maintaining the integrity of the dry laid stone wall that's below it and in front of it. And also that the concrete block wall that's proposed is, you know, kind of out of scale with everything in the neighborhood. I mean, that's a material that you might use along an interstate highway or something, but not in a historic district. And I just want to remind the commission members, if they weren't already aware, if my memory serves, it was the East Hill District came about and was in the works of being designated in the late 1980s. And it was, you know, as district designations take some time, it was the work that was done to 705 East Buffalo Street by the current owner that really accelerated the designation of the district, because prior to his ownership of the building, that was really quite a showplace of a property, you know, on all of East Hill. And when that, especially the yard, which was a quite beautiful urban residential yard, you know, was, you know, more or less 100% paved for a parking lot. That is what prompted the district to be established by Common Council. So, you know, that is an absolutely important property, in spite of the fact that now it has a parking lot for 50 or 60 cars. And then I would also just point out that the commission has approved, you know, concrete block walls in the district, but they're of a much smaller scale and more reminiscent of the stone walls that are common in the district. I mean, in terms of their scale, and that the concrete block that's proposed is really kind of inappropriate in this place. So I would hope the commission takes all these concerns into consideration. And there were, just to clarify some things, from my recollection, the boundary line where that wall is runs a little to the south of the stone wall. So the stone wall, I believe, is on the applicant's property. And I'm happy to answer any questions if commission members have any.
All right, thank you, Dave. Very helpful.
Thank you. Okay. Any other public out there?
As far as I know, Mr. Beer was the only person who expressed an interest in speaking, and we received no public comments, so no.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? Okay, well, thank you. Can I have a motion to close public discussion?
I'll make a motion.
Sue, second? Someone?
Second. Yeah.
Okay. David, thank you.
All right.
My apologies, but who seconded to open? Does anybody remember?
Avi.
Okay, thank you.
And David.
Oh, I think they were battling for it.
No, I could see.
All right. At this point, what does the commission desire to do? Do we table this and do a on-site visit before going any further?
I think that makes sense.
That sounds good to me. I'd really like to see it.
Okay. All right, how should we arrange that?
I will send out a couple of proposed times tomorrow, so we can schedule the site visit within the next week or two.
Okay.
Would it be possible to have the engineer there?
Yes, sir.
Joe, you can set that up. Okay.
Yep,
And a sample of the materials?
I should be able to do that, yes.
Material weighs 2 tons. One thing that'd be useful, the engineers provide a section at one particular location where there's the stone wall, but there's also a section where there's a house and a section where there is no stone wall. And the plan is severely lacking. I think more drawings could be useful in order to determine the extent of this, and also an elevation from the south to show how it steps up the hillside, because the top of this wall is going to step. That's quite a bit of a slope across there, which I don't find the stepping very attractive. It occurs to me that actually a better material for this would be poured concrete that could be made to slope up with the hillside and wouldn't have that, possibly. I mean, the ideal would be stone, I suppose. Anyway, I'm just suggesting that more documents could be produced to help us better understand what's being proposed.
Okay, I'll see what I can do for that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Should we, so we'll set up a special meeting for that in the next week or two. And at this point, we'll move on to our last item on the agenda tonight, which is 122 Wade Avenue, Cornell Heights Historic District, retroactive request for approval for the replacement of an unspecified number of wood 1/1 double hung windows with composite wood window inserts.
The applicant will be calling in, so I'm waiting for him to join us. I
Okay.
just got off the phone with him.
I noticed in the resolution, it mentions a number of places vinyl replacement. So I assume that,
They are a composite wood. The vinyl might just be a typo.
okay,
I try to keep the resolutions from each
Yeah.
retroactive approval consistent, and some of the language was borrowed from another resolution that we had previously looked at for another property.
okay.
Hold on a minute, Mr. Nassar. You're on the meeting now, so.
Yes, I am on. I can hear you.
Okay, if you could give us if you could discuss the process that led to you putting in these windows, that would be very helpful.
Okay.
I guess one question I have is, did you seek out a contractor to put the windows in, or did the contractor find you? And offered?
Okay, I came to City Hall 3 times. I could not find anybody.
Okay,
I could not get in, you know? So I had a situation now where I have no students right now. So I wanted to take advantage of the absence of the students to take care of the windows, of the replacement windows, and also to do it before the winter.
okay. And so when you found the contractor, what did he say about permits that would be needed to do the work?
No, I signed the contract, and when I signed the contract, there was about 2-3 months lag between signing the contract and doing the project, you know. So I thought in that time I could take care of the permit.
Okay.
not knowing at the time, that City Hall was closed.
Did the contractor ask you about the permits at all? Did he want to know what the situation was, or did he not ask you?
But I don't know, and the contractor is I think they are in Syracuse.
Okay.
And I don't know if they were aware of what's going on in Ithaca. I mean, I didn't ask.
Well, what are the commission members' thoughts on this unfortunate situation?
Well, I think we have to begin from the standpoint that we begin from all of these particular projects, is look at what the replacement is and determine whether or not it's an appropriate replacement. In some cases, we have approved retroactively actions that have been taken because we would have approved them had they been asked in advance of the work. And in other cases, we found that the work that has been done is not compatible with what the law requires us to do and the guidance we have from the standards and principles. So I think we need to start with reviewing what the material replacement choices are and determine whether or not those are suitable for this property. And also determine whether or not, even before that, whether or not replacement is warranted due to deterioration.
Okay, ma'am, this project has been going on for 3-4 years. I wanted to do that, and about 3 years ago, I went to City Hall and I spoke with somebody who was in charge of these things, and at the time, the main thing I remember, the main thing I remember is that because I am in a historical district, I must make sure that the outside appearance of the house is adhered to. I should not make changes in the appearance of the house. So this in the outside look of the house, and so that fact stuck in my mind, and so when I kept looking for window replacement, I picked what I picked because it is the closest thing to what I'm replacing. In other words, the material is 3 times, it costs more 3 times than fiber. And it was the same color as the color of the house outside, the windows. So that's why I took that into account, and I'm paying actually 3.5 times what it cost me to maintain the standard.
Well, I do appreciate that. And I think that is very well intentioned. I think for the commission, however, the first thing we have to consider, and this is not just because of your property, this is how we have to legally approach every property, is first determining whether or not the conditions of the historic material warrant repair or replacement. And replacement under our standards should be in kind whenever possible. And so before we can even get to whether or not what you chose is suitable, a determination must be made of whether or not it was necessary in the first place. And that's why we conducted a site visit to your property, and we appreciated your hospitality with that. So I think that's where the commission needs to start, and then we can proceed to the actual replacement product.
Okay. All right. I thought it's very close to. I thought it was appropriate for me at the time. That's what I thought. That's why I did it.
Okay.
Well, the original window or two that I saw, I did not think was so deteriorated that it needed replacement. But I want to note at this point that I find this whole process really disturbing and heartbreaking that the applicant, so far as I'm concerned, has been taken advantage of by a contractor that came and did this work without the appropriate permissions. And once again, I would like to see, and Donna, we need to talk about this, a change to the city municipal code that holds responsible contractors that do this kind of work without the proper permission. Because I just, we will talk about our standards and we will do what we have to do, but I just don't think this is right or fair to the applicant.
Okay. Sir, were you among the commissioner who came to see what's going on in the house?
I was, and I too appreciated your hospitality and meeting your wife. I did not think that the windows as I saw them were so deteriorated that they needed replacement.
Okay.
Were the windows that you took out, the ones that are already gone, were they in similar condition, or why were those picked to be the first to be removed?
No, I do not understand the question.
What condition, the condition of the windows that you removed, were they the same or similar to what is still in place, the old windows that you still have in the house, or were they in worse condition?
No, they were, I think what I'm replacing with is I think is better than what I have now.
But the condition of the ones that you took away already, they were similar to what is still in the building?
Yeah.
Still in your...
I mean, I don't know. They took them with them. I don't have them right now,
Okay.
But, I mean, I did not, yeah.
Okay. What about the product that went in, just to step ahead a little bit here, what's it called, Fibrex?
It's Fibrex, Fibrex. It's very, very strong. It's much better than, it's not actually fiber, it's not, it's a composite wood.
Okay. Have we, commission members, have we approved this product or similar product in the past? I'm just wanting to find out where we've been on this before, this composite wood product.
I can remember it being approved in new construction. I can't remember it being approved. Well, no, that's incorrect. On the corner of Clinton and Geneva Street, we approved the replacement of aluminum triple track windows in an enclosed porch with a similar composite wood window.
Okay.
Brian, remind me, I remember that we approved at the rear, it was like a bathroom, I think, of a house kind of at the curve on University Avenue by the cemetery. And it was a composite material with proprietary chemical components or whatever. So we never actually found out what the composite material was, but we approved it on it was one of those things that we're like, we'll do this as a test case, which would be interesting to go back and see how that's performing. We should think about that. But I feel like it was a composite material, but it was not visible. It was completely out of the public right, and nobody could see it. Even the property owners adjacent to it couldn't see it.
Right. It was, I remember the property. It was, the window was right on the gorge. So you wouldn't be able to see the window. I haven't seen the window installed, so I'm not sure how well it's performing, one, and how well it accurately reflects the historic features of the original window. But I do believe it was installed. One window was installed there.
Yeah, we only approved one window. That's all they were doing.
Mhm.
Okay, I'm just trying to find a way of moving through this problem. I mean, really, ideally, we would be in a situation, or ideally, the situation should be that we could go to the contractor and pass some of this liability across to the contractor, because here we have a case of somebody, a contractor from Syracuse. Well, they don't care about what our historic districts are or what our process is. If they can come in and put the windows in and then disappear, and then they can tell in this case, I'm not really sure exactly what happened, but there are cases where they come in and they say, oh, yes, it's fine. You don't need any permits. And then they go ahead and do it. And then, of course, the homeowner is responsible in the end. But it's not totally fair. It really isn't. And how do we address that? It's true, the code really needs to be altered. But in the meantime, here we are. We have this problem again.
Well, and it's not just a violation of the Preservation Commission's ordinance. It's also a violation of New York State Energy Code that requires all replacement windows to be permitted in New York State. So,
yeah,
a twofer.
Right.
Yeah, and as a window contractor in New York State, this company should have been aware of that requirement.
I'm sure they are. I'd be hard pressed to think that they aren't.
Mm-hmm.
I offer some observations on the existing windows and the replacements.
Please.
I agree with Brian that we did approve some composite windows at the corner of Clinton and Geneva. And it was sort of, we were getting a lot of applications for composite windows at the time. And we thought, well, we'll see how these ones look and see how they go. But let's see. So the original windows, they are 1/1 sash. They're no divided lights. The construction does have sash cords with the balance weights, and the stops are grounded and screwed, which makes them fairly easy to remove and service the sash cords. So those are good features about them. The exterior has aluminum triple track storm screen combination units, which are, not particularly attractive and not that easy to use. But we saw some of those on the porch that have been removed. That does improve the performance of the single glazed original sash. And there's one sash lock per double hung sash in the middle, and the meeting rail is about 1 1/4 inch wide. So the replacements we saw are also 1/1 sash, which is a good thing because it means there's no grills between the glass or anything like that, which would be worse. The triple tracks have been removed, and the meeting rail is about 2 inches thick, which is considerably thicker than the existing meeting rail. And there are 2 sash locks per lower sash, which looks kind of different than the original. So from an exterior standpoint, I think the main differences in appearance are the thickness of the meeting rail and the double sash lock. Concerning materials, I think there's going to be a point where whether it's fiberglass or composite or whatever, it's more about the profile, I think, than the material itself. And whether the profile and sizing of the components matches the original. So that doesn't argue for removing the originals and replacing them, but just an overview of what the originals were and what the replacements are in comparison.
Okay, so what are our options really as a commission at this point to deal with this particular problem? would we have approved this if in fact, say, one of the windows had been totally destroyed for whatever reason? Would we have approved the window that went in or the windows that have gone in?
As a non-expert looking from the driveway, I thought the replacement looked pretty good. I don't even know what standing or status such an observation has, except that it didn't jar my eyes. Other folks?
I think this, I just, with all due respect, I despise these types of projects that we end up reviewing. And the reason I do is because it puts the commission on a very dangerous slope of approving something. And then we're setting building owners up to ask for forgiveness instead of permission long-term. And I'm worried about, I don't think, having looked at the windows, that they, and I did not feel, I had my daughter with me. I did not feel comfortable going in the building because of the pandemic. But I looked at the pictures that Brian had taken of it, and I agreed with the other commissioners that I did not think the condition warranted replacement. I thought that they were perfectly suitable from what I saw, and my knowledge of architecture from that particular period of time, that these windows they definitely probably had too many layers of paint on them that could be taken off. And window cords and sashes can be repaired and replaced. These windows windows of this period and earlier were designed in pieces so that they could be taken apart and reassembled, fixed and reassembled. Windows did not used to be disposable objects. We now live in a world where replacement windows are in fact disposable objects. And so from my perspective, we're back at the spot with whether or not these materials should have been replaced in the first place, or if they should have been repaired. And I am of the mindset that they should have been repaired, and that this is a very unfortunate situation, but we don't have any legal purview to rule based on those issues, which is unfortunate. I think the city needs to take action. This is a reoccurring problem of property owners proceeding down a rosy path with some expectations that a contractor has set them up to believe. And lo and behold, they discover that's not actually how the permitting works. That's not how the Preservation Commission works, et cetera, et cetera. But currently we have no legal wiggle room on that stuff. And so we have to think not just about this property, but I'm considering, what if we say it's okay here, what prevents someone else from saying, well, I'm just going to do the same thing? Or, well, you set a precedent. I mean, I'm sorry, from a public right of way, I am not going to approve a composite window that's visible from the public right of way. And I agree. I think that this is probably a better example of what, from a profile standpoint, of what could be approved in a non-contributing building or a new construction or on a rear facade. But I'm not comfortable setting the precedent that a composite window is a suitable replacement when the materiality has not been demonstrated to have deteriorated to the point that the replacement is necessary. So that's kind of where I fall. I think this is a really unfortunate situation. If the window is gone, then that's one thing, but I'm not gonna approve wholesale replacement of these. So I don't think that the conditions warrant it. So, and it would set a very significant precedent. Brian, like Brian said, it doesn't, and Brian, please correct me if I'm wrong. We have never approved on a historic building replacement of this kind unless we have determined that deterioration is so significant that there are not alternatives. And we have required building owners to go and have wood windows made. So I don't think it's fair to say we did that on the commons. We've had it done in other cases and other properties. And so I think it would be disingenuous of us to have said to them that you have to do this. And now we've changed, right? And I understand that times change and commissioners change and perspectives change. But I think that that's worth keeping in mind, decisions that have been made prior to now and how those affected homeowners and property owners.
Well, I mean, we're coming back to your comment, Caitlin. I mean, we brought in the city attorney and levied huge fines on people that have, or at least forced a negotiation based on a huge fine that had been levied. And well, although that was when a party that we felt really had acted in bad faith. Here, I don't see that. But I guess my question is, what, respecting the dilemma of the applicant, what is our best course here?
Well, I mean, ideally, what I'd like to see, ideally, well, not ideally, but practically, the window that's already been replaced, if the other window is gone, and I would anticipate that the new window altered the opening, there's been alterations that happened as a result of that window going in. That replacing it, if they don't even have the window, replacing it with the original isn't even possible.
Yeah.
So I think that because it's one, that's different than 17 in some case. I mean, we've seen that many. We've seen replacements of that scale. We've seen replacements of upwards of that. I think we could differentiate that one happened. It was a mistake. We would not have approved it, but we're willing to concede on that one that the damage has already been done and that this is a suitable replacement because of that. But once we're now aware of the other ones, I mean, it's almost because the window is aesthetically compatible enough, it's not glaringly obvious that it's a replacement in comparison to the others. So I would not approve replacing the rest of the windows with this. I would be in favor of them being repaired and helping this gentleman and the property owner find contractors who are capable of doing this work. Historic Ithaca keeps a list of contractors who are capable of doing this work, and I'm sure Brian has recommendations also. And that's a solution. But I mean, I appreciate that this project, this part of it has already been completed. And I don't think that this is a case of bad faith. And I don't think it warrants the city attorney's time. I'm sure he has much going on in the current climate. But I also don't want to say that well, then we're just going to approve this for all of them, because it sets us up to approve it way down for many projects coming forward. This is a recurring issue that we see.
I have
Man, can I say something?
Of course.
Sure.
Man, I did not hear you mention once the savings on the energy that I am going to obtain from changing those windows.
The reason
that was my primary concern. Because 3 years ago, when the heating product were high, 3 times as it is today, I was paying $500-600 a month for heating. That almost bankrupted me. That was a main reason for doing the changes.
I'm not discounting energy issues, but we have no legal purview to rule on energy issues. We have a very specific law that we have to make decisions under, and energy usage is not one of them. It doesn't mean that I am not sympathetic with your issues, but I also have articulated here, and others have as well, that historic windows can be repaired and replaced, and with proper storm windows that are properly fitted, can be just as energy efficient as the models that are currently on the market. Not to mention, your windows are original to your house. And I can promise you that the composite materials on the market now for either vinyl or for new construction windows will not last as long as the windows you currently have, if they're taken care of. And it's a proven fact. We have come to become a culture that has embraced disposable windows. And I'm not negating the value of energy conservation, at all. I think historic preservation is actually quite energy friendly. But we can't rule on whether or not it's an energy efficient choice. It's just not in the purview of our law.
So
Ma'am.
in
Yeah,
this,
go ahead.
in the resolution or in this application, are we actually being asked at this point to approve all the changes that had been proposed early on by this contractor, or are we just looking for a solution to the windows that have been already changed out?
So the proposal was just a retroactive request for the windows that have been installed. And then the proposed scope of the total project is something that we should also address. But this is just for the windows that were replaced, and then we can talk about the overall scope as an additional item.
So I was there at the site visit. Now, how many of the windows were actually replaced so far?
I think it's about 6 windows. Is that correct, Mr. Nassar?
Okay. No, more than that. This is the windows of the second floor. Now you still have the first floor. I have a contract to do all windows, everything.
And how many have been done so far?
Okay, on the second floor, I think there are 17 windows. 17,
Yep.
a little more, you know.
Yeah, but he's not asking
what
the
they
total.
did. What they did is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They did 7 out of on the second floor. Now I'm talking about out of 22.
So 7 have been replaced out of 22.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 7 has been replaced already.
Okay, all right. So really, my understanding was we were basically tonight to discuss what to do about those 7 windows. It really wasn't to approve all these other window replacements. I don't think we ever intended to do that. Am I right on, or am I misreading this thing?
I believe the intention, though, from our site visit is to replace more than what has been done.
Okay.
So we have to consider the scope going forward as well, but that's not the resolution. Is that correct, Brian?
Yes.
All right. So we really have to figure out what we want to do about the 7 that have been changed out already.
Donna keeps raising her hand here.
Oh, Donna, sorry.
What's the consequences of simply withholding approval? Is it that he won't get a certificate of compliance or what?
Big financial loss for me.
Yeah. So withholding approval from the city's perspective.
I don't think I can get a refund.
Okay.
Because these are custom made windows, and they're all made already.
Well, that's well, certainly no further work should proceed without permits. Well, that's
why you are here tonight. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, of course.
But what's the consequence of simply withholding approval on these 7?
So if the commission,
Ryan?
so if the commission doesn't approve them within 60 days, 90 days, if there's additional information provided, then there's a provision in the ordinance, the windows automatically get approved because an application was submitted and the ILPC did not take action within the required period. They can deny the application and then, but choose not to take any additional action than that. So, they're saying that the windows are inappropriate and they would not have approved them and is denied, but they, if they wanted them replaced with something else, they would have to add a condition to the approval that something would replace them. That would be the option, but really without commission action on the application, there's not really a good outcome.
Okay. So this is a point where if the city ordinance were better defined and bring the liability also across to the contractor, here would be a situation where the homeowner would not, this homeowner has already paid for all these windows. I mean, now I guess he can sue because he doesn't have, the contractor didn't get the necessary permits. I would think he has legal grounds there.
Mhm.
Is that correct? I would think so.
Depends on their contract. I mean, we don't know.
That's not our purview. That's really not what we're supposed to be looking at. All right, commission members, what do we do?
I just want to repeat again what somebody already said, that the contractor took off the triple track aluminum storms and probably got them all bent up and broken, and then took out the sash and threw them away. They cut out the parting stops and probably filled the weight pockets with spray foam or something. So it's really almost impossible to return these 7 windows to their original condition.
Okay.
Well, Brian, can I ask a question?
Sure. Yes.
Okay, so I don't think it would be the intention of the commission nor the desire of, I know you can't speak for the city attorney. I'm not asking you to. But my recommendation would be that we deny, because I get the sense from the commission members that they did not feel that the original condition warranted replacement. And I please correct me if I'm wrong. But the fact also remains that we're now in a position where the windows have already been done. And as Steve points out, and he would be the one to know this, that the alterations made in that process have now rendered it virtually impossible to reinstall the original windows, even if they were available. Maybe not completely impossible, but very likely impossible. Is there a method by which we could deny approval, preserving our, well, frankly, how we have proceeded in the past, which would be denying approval to this, but that it effectively goes to mediation, at which point I doubt the city attorney will be very interested.
No, he wouldn't.
In pursuing it. And our mediation could be that in this case, we recommend that further city action isn't taken. Does that make sense? I don't want to, I'm not comfortable approving this.
Yes.
Because it sets precedent, but I also don't think the city attorney should waste his time or the property owner's time by litigating it.
Right. I mean, is there, in the mitigation process, are you looking for, you're not looking for any additional action? Like in the past, we've referred it to the city attorney with a recommendation that the outcome be that the primary facade received more appropriate replacement windows or something like that. So
well,
in this case, the recommendation would be to refer it to the city attorney for resolution, and then our recommendation would be that no further action be taken. Is that
for the windows that have already happened? Honestly, I think the mitigation becomes that we say that we're not willing to approve the other windows on the property being replaced without having determined that their deterioration is such that they can't be repaired. I mean, because honestly, because that's a pretty significant mitigating factor. It's just not a legal, it's not a mitigating factor the city attorney would undertake. The work hasn't been done. And as Councilman Fleming noted, like no further work should take place, right? Without the appropriate permits. And that process, going through the appropriate permitting process, will trigger review by both the board, by both building code and by us.
Correct.
And so we treat the rest of the facade then would thereby be treated appropriately. I mean, that would be my recommendation, is that we allow ourselves to maintain the integrity of our decision-making process to date and moving forward, but that we're not suggesting that the city attorney needs to pursue things further also. Does that?
Okay, that makes sense.
Donna,
What's the difference between that and you're simply withholding approval, which means it would be tacitly approved in 90 days? For these 7?
Because
No, in 90 days?
the problem I see in doing that is that
The winter.
that would leave a road that other people would then take. This way, we're definitely voting this. We're not approving this, and it's clear we're not approving it. If we just leave it float, then we are behind. We're just going to let it float to approval, and I see that being that can also have us set bad precedent, really.
But I agree, but I thought that's what Caitlin's suggestion would eventually lead to, right? Or were you, no? I'm
No.
misunderstood then.
No,
Okay.
I'm sorry for not explaining it correctly. I want my recommendation is the commission votes does not approve it. That's something we've done before. We've had other property owners who've replaced a bunch of windows, and we deny the application on
Right.
the grounds that we have, and then it goes to the next layer, passes to the city attorney.
Yep.
Typically what we say is what kind of mitigation we'd like to see negotiated as a result of that, what our recommendation is. Once that happens, though, it's out of our hands. We don't have any further capacity to control the outcome of that process, but we can say to the city attorney, we would like all the original windows that are still in the basement reinstalled, or whatever it is. In this case, I would say to the attorney, we've denied it. We've forwarded it to you for mitigation because that's legally that's our next step in the process. But we are not asking you to take our recommendation is not to take any further action. Now, could the city attorney flip around and, having had an inspiration from, the Secretary of Interior standards, decide to pursue action? Yes. But that would not be our recommendation. And I would be strongly shocked and amazed. Amazed isn't even the word. Shocked and deeply surprised if the city attorney decided to pursue that.
Right.
So it recognizes the work has already been done, but it preserves the commission's right and history of denying this type of project. Because I would be very uncomfortable with putting it in the record that either by tacit approval or official approval that we're saying that this is okay, because that's gonna make other cases appear.
Right. Easier to get by. Okay, I get it. I
So
understand.
that was my rationale.
Got it. Okay.
Excuse me. Yeah, I think that's a definite possibility to deny it this evening, refer it to the city attorney's office for resolution. The question is whether you want the language about the proposed next steps, which are basically no next steps, written into the resolution, or is that something you would like me to communicate with the city attorney separately outside of the resolution?
Can I propose something additional here? That if we're going to involve the city attorney, why don't we sick him on the contractor who proceeded without proper approval? That's against the law. Why don't we get him going on that?
We could add a resolve that we recommend that the city attorney, if possible, pursue action against the contractor as a recommendation. I don't know what the legal mechanism is for him to do that, though. But we can absolutely include it in the yeah. I think that's a good suggestion, to include language like that in the resolution.
Well, the fact you need to have some kind of permit to install these windows by state law gives the attorney some grounds to move forward, I would think. But
It seems there's nothing else the city attorney could write a letter to the contractor letting them know what they've done and that there could be legal repercussions. Rather than letting them off scot-free.
Yeah, I know with projects outside of the historic district, if a contractor does work without a building permit, a required building permit, they double the permit application fee as the way of mitigating that work done without the permit. So, you know, that's the way they handle it. But again, that would be a fee that would then get passed on to the property owner. It's not a fee that is then, you know, the responsibility of the contractor. So I think including language about, you know, encouraging the city attorney to pursue any action possible for pursuing this contractor is a good one.
And we don't know, but this contractor might be doing this kind of thing around the state, in which case it'd be an attorney general issue.
Mm-hmm.
At minimum, it's a consumer protection issue.
Right, right.
You know, it's ridiculous. But part of the problem becomes, I've seen some of these, I've certainly not seen this contract, and I can't speak to the particulars of it, but I've seen some of these contracts, and they are some of them can be pretty detailed, and it articulates basically that the building gets left out of the bag. So.
Well, I do know that they're leaving leaflets around the neighborhood. I had one on my doorstep.
Well, Sue, are we going to find out that you've been misbehaving with
Our windows are all done.
So this contractor is leaving leaflets at
Yes.
the Anderson renewal leaflets at, okay.
Yes.
Is he putting them in, or he or she putting them in the mailboxes? Because that's a federal offense.
Oh, I think they were just left it on the front stoop.
Okay.
So here's where the code and
May I make a comment?
Sure.
Please. What harm my action has done to the building, to the appearance of the building? Did I not improve the appearance of the building?
The problem is,
I mean, Buckingham Palace was winterized.
the
I
building,
had to winterize my house.
yeah,
That's what I did.
the building is in the historic district, however. So
Yes, Buckingham Palace is also a historical building.
The Preservation Commission operates under a very specific local law, and property owners who have designated buildings in either historic district or that are independently designated are required to come to us before work is completed to ensure it's compatible with the standards and principles set forth and articulated in our local law. And so the commission is controlled by a very finite set of rules. And I think everybody, I can't speak for everybody. I know I personally regret that we are in this situation that we are, and that we're property owners, and that we do understand that there are financial implications and energy implications. However, we are bound by municipal law to rule on very specific issues. And the primary one starts with us determining whether or not a historically significant material for a character defining feature for a property warrants repair or replacement in kind, or replacement as close to in kind as possible. This is not our it's not about our personal feelings or things like that we're operating under the law, and that's what we have to do, because you have a property that is designated a historic resource within a historic district. So we're working under some fairly tight confines as well.
Under normal circumstances, I would have obtained the permits and everything. But because of the coronavirus, City Hall was closed. We are not under normal circumstances. You have to allow something for that. I didn't do what I did in spite or anything, because I was under the circumstances. I had to finish before winter.
And we need the
What,
children.
what harm have I done? I mean, I care more about my house than any of you. And I care more about the historical district than many of you. I live here after all. I care about this district.
If you had gone through the process, you probably would not have gotten a permit.
Okay, I did not go about the process, okay?
And you would
fine.
not,
I am sorry.
virus or not, the permit would not have been issued. You would not have gotten a permit to do this particular project. But you went ahead anyhow, and that's the problem we're in now. That you
Of
went.
course, we have to get the children to come and stay in here. We were going prepared.
My living are the students I rent the house to. I had to finish it before they come back. I mean, all of these you are not taking any account of all of these circumstances.
Even though City Hall is closed, you can still get a building permit.
All right, so where do we go from here at this point? We should probably read the resolution into the record and vote on it. Do we have any other comments on this? Do we have to open this discussion to the public?
I was going to suggest that.
Okay, do we have a motion to open to the public?
I moved to open the public.
Second?
Yes.
Good. Okay. Do we have any comments from the public on this project?
We received no written comments and we have not had anybody attempt to join the meeting.
Okay.
I move we close public discussion.
David, second? Sue? Okay. It would seem at this point we should probably read the resolution RD, and as we go through, there might be some changes needed, but at least we will get moving forward on this. Do we have a volunteer to read resolution RD?
I will.
Okay. Thank you.
Brian, can you help me make sure that I don't read what I don't need to read? And please.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Resolution RD, whereas 122 Wade Avenue is located within the Cornell Heights Historic District as designated under section 228-3 of the City of Municipal Code.
Caitlin, if you want to jump down to the resolves, that's okay.
Sure. Resolved that the ILPC has made the following findings of fact concerning the property and the proposal. As identified in the City of Ithaca's Cornell Heights Historic District Summary Statement, the period of significance for the area now known as the Cornell Heights Historic District is 1898 to 1937. As indicated in the New York State Building Structure Inventory Form, the Craftsman Style Residence at 122 Wade Avenue was constructed between 1921 and 1922. Constructed within a period of significance of the Cornell Heights Historic District and possessing a high level of integrity, the property is a contributing element of the Cornell Heights Historic District. Okay, and then consideration of this and all of approvals. We are considering principle number 2, which was already been covered, correct?
Correct.
Standard number 2 has been covered.
Correct.
Have we covered standard number 6?
We have not.
Didn't think so. Standard number 6, deteriorated historic features shall be repaired rather than replaced. When the severity of deterioration requires replacement of the distinctive features, the new features shall match the old in design, color, texture, and other visual qualities, and where possible, materials. Replacement of missing features shall be substantiated by documentary, physical, or pictorial evidence. We covered standard number 9, right?
Yes.
New additions and exterior alterations. Okay, with respect to principle number 2, standard number 2, and standard number 9, the replacement of the historic wood windows with composite wood windows has removed distinctive materials and altered features and spaces that characterize the property. With respect to principle number 2 and standard number 6, the property owner has stated their opinion that the severity of the deterioration of wind windows was such that their replacement was required. However, since the original materials have already been discarded, contractors specializing in the repair of wood windows and members of the ILPC are unable to make an independent assessment of the condition of those I would like to make an alteration of the condition of those already replaced. And then insert something along the lines of the windows that historic windows we were able to view that remain, essentially were not at a point of requiring replacement. Rather they were in need of repair. Is that okay?
Yes.
Also, with respect to standard number 6, the insert window units do not match the old and design color, texture, materials, or other visual qualities. The installed windows inserts alter the historic planar relationship between the window sashes and the wall surfaces and reduce the size of the exposed and exterior sills. In addition to the change in material, window inserts themselves do not replicate the characteristic molding profiles or the glazed to solid proportions found in the original sashes. Also, with respect to principle number 2 and standard number 9, the proposed replacement windows are not compatible with the massing, size, scale, and architectural features of the property, in that the size of the original window openings.
See, we typically, Caitlin, we typically read this as the proposed replacement windows are compatible with the size, scale, massing, because the windows, the openings, the fenestration openings are the same size, and yeah.
Okay. But I disagree about the architectural features.
Okay.
So I would say are compatible with the massing, size, and scale.
But not architectural features. So,
well, because it seems like we're already saying that the color, design, texture, materials, and other visual qualities are not compatible. So it seems to me.
So we can leave out architectural features, or we can say that the windows are compatible with the massing, size, and scale of the building, but not the architectural features.
I would go. Well, I'm going to move that. The differentiation between the two, because I think the massing, size, and scale is compatible. You know, I've seen windows infilled, right? So we can fit in a vinyl window from Home Depot, and that's certainly not the case here. So I think that's important to articulate. But I think the architectural features, it's not perfect, because we already just said it wasn't because of alterations. Anyway, okay. Resolve that based on the findings set forth above, the replacement of the historic wood windows with vinyl with composite replacement windows has had a substantial effect on the aesthetic, historical or architectural significance of 122 Wade Avenue and the Cornell Heights Historic District as set forth in section 228-6, and be it further resolved that the Ithaca Landmarks Preservation Commission determines that the removal of the historic wood windows does not meet criteria for approval under section 228-6 of the municipal code and is a violation of section 228-4 of the municipal code. And be it further resolved that the Ithaca Landmarks Preservation Commission determines that the installed composite replacement windows do not meet criteria for approval under section 228-6 of the municipal code. And be it further resolved that the ILPC denies the application for certificate of appropriateness. And sorry, go ahead.
Do we add anything else in there? Or?
Oh, sorry, there's another page. Hold on. And be resolved that the violation of section 228-4 of the municipal code for the removal of an original character defining feature without approval is referred to the office of the city attorney for resolution. And then the question is, well, I mean, we could get a second and then discuss it. The question becomes whether or not we want to recommend mitigation efforts to the city attorney in this, or if that's going to be a conversation you want to have directly with him and leave it out of this resolution.
That seems more appropriate that Brian might talk to the attorney about it rather than us putting it in the resolution itself.
Okay, so I'm not going to say any of the mitigation. Resolved, the violation of standard 6 in section 228-4 of the municipal code for removal of an original character defining feature without approval is referred to the city, the office of the city attorney for resolution. And we'll just leave it at that as opposed to anything else.
Okay, do we have a second?
Well, are we going to put a recommendation in there that he'd look into this, the work being done without proper approval?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
Pardon? What was that, Kate? Okay.
Yeah, I would be fine. I'd be fine to language to that effect.
Yeah, I really would like to
Okay.
be in the record.
As an additional resolve, or as appended to the violation resolve, with language that states, the violation of standard or of section 228-4 of the municipal code for the removal of the character defining feature without approval is referred to the office of the city attorney for resolution, with the recommendation that the city attorney pursue action against the contractor, or pursue any possible action against the contractor, or
Yeah, well, I think that's fine for violating New York State building code or New York State energy code. And
Are we better to pull this off separately so that it's really time to start dealing with this in a way that the city code reflects this better than it does now, because this is hurting homeowners who, and in fact, we know that here we have an example, they're putting flyers all over the historic district. If they were held liable for doing some of this stuff without permit, they wouldn't be putting those flyers all over the historic district. Something so maybe in this resolution, do we kind of pull that out a little bit and actually put it in as a separate resolve, just to flag it a little more closely that, hey, this is a problem. Otherwise it just gets lost in that resolve.
well, I think that's part of the problem. I think we need to, it's not just the city attorney. The city attorney has limitations to what their office can do also. But I think this really is, maybe if possible, we could put this on our agenda for our next meeting. And I think we should absolutely have a communication that goes both as a recommendation to city council and, is copied to the city attorney's office, because it's city council that has the power to change the law.
Right.
And,
Definitely.
And it's their constituents who are getting royally, hosed by some of this. So.
Right.
I wonder if at some point we could actually draft some language that we might propose.
I don't see any reason why not. I think that's a great idea, David.
Yeah.
Good.
I think it should be a separate resolve.
Separate resolve. Okay.
Okay. All right. Do we have a second on? We'll include those two resolved. One defining, referring it to the attorney, and another at least looking for options is concerning the contractor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Do we have everybody? Yes. Okay. Thank you. Very difficult situation. All right. So the resolution, we have just, all right, in voting, with everybody voting, we have resolved that we are not approving resolution RD. Okay. Next. There's nothing else on the list here tonight.
Are you talking to me? I'm lost. I am lost. I don't know what's happening.
Well, we are not approving your application. It will be sent to the city attorney for review concerning the situation that you're currently facing, and also to look at the situation with the contractor who in fact started work in the historic district on your historic house without having the proper permits.
And why are you giving me the reason? Are you going to write down why you are taking that decision?
Because you are in a historic district and you would have required the permit and the approval of the ILPC to even start this project. The fact that you did not have.
And the fact that City Hall was closed doesn't count.
You still would have been able to put in applications. Other people have been putting applications in all through the pandemic. It would have still been possible to put in an application requesting approval. The problem is, in a situation like yours, it would have been very unlikely you would have gotten the approval that you would have been seeking to put in 20 some new windows in a historic house.
What can I say? I mean, what can I say? I mean, I'm sorry.
We are old people. We're not just the young persons. We are working hard for our house.
What harm have I done to the house? What harm have I done to the district, to the historic district?
Mr. Nassar,
the replacement window are better than what I'm taking, what exists now.
So, Mr.
The
Nassar,
energy savings, all of these factors you are ignoring. All you are thinking of is that I went ahead and did it in spite of the permit, without having a permit. I am sorry about that. If we had no coronavirus, I wouldn't have done that. If City Hall was open, I would have done it. I would have obtained the permission.
Mr. Nassar, the commission has voted. I will follow up with you to see how I can help you move forward. But, as other commission members have stated, they have a very narrow purview, and the criteria they use to review applications is very narrow.
Okay.
And it keeps their decisions, not only for your property, but for other properties within the district and within the city, consistent. And so
is that Brian? Am I talking to
yeah,
Brian?
This is Brian. So I will be in touch, and
right.
we will figure out next steps together.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Yes. Have a good evening.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
That's great.
Well, at least that was at the end of the evening. Do we have anything else on the schedule? I think that was it.
Well, there were minutes.
I'm lax on minutes. I'm still working on them. I've got a set pretty much done, and I've got a couple in partial. So I'll try to get 2 or 3 sets out by the end of the week.
Okay.
Now oh yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
When he asked what harm he had done, and we just mentioned how, there has to be a permit and there has to be a process for making changes to a historic house. I kind of wish it just said that, because he said his replacement is better. I sort of wish we had just said how, typically vinyl windows are not accepted, or not vinyl, but the construction of these windows, typically they're not accepted for an historic house. It stands out as not being the original materials. And, just the basics of why these historic preservation laws exist, that it wouldn't look like the original historic material, and the basic reasons of why these windows are considered inferior. I'm not sure that he actually heard that.
Yeah.
adhered more of our rules and regulations, which we had to say as well.
Yeah.
But I didn't say anything. I, could talk about the aesthetics of vinyl or these types of windows. But I don't think he quite understood it. He seemed like he really thought he was improving the place and didn't.
Yeah, no, I
quite.
think he did. Yeah, I think, Brian, that this is going to be a conversation for you to have with them and make it as clear as you can what happened, because I don't think they really understand what happened here. And
No.
Next.
And window, this is an issue for preservation nationally, is that window manufacturers do a far better job of selling their products than preservationists do of selling the original features. And the public has been convinced that windows are disposable and that there's no way to repair them, make them more energy efficient, make them more attractive, whatever the public's concerns are. And people buy it, and so they replace the windows not knowing that they're throwing out a real asset. Historic wood windows don't need to be replaced every 20 years like a replacement window. You can make them just as energy efficient or more so than a replacement window by doing some pretty basic routine maintenance and adding some weather stripping in a storm window. And those are all things that can be done affordably. And most of the time by your average property owner, or there are contractors available to do it. So I don't know. I think as a movement, preservationists need to do a better job for advocating for historic wood windows. And maybe we need the vinyl world, or whatever your window manufacturer is, TV advertisements and things promoting the work that we do and the windows that people already have.
But I really think it ought to be part of our brief to get some language and get it to Common Council and change the law here in the city, and get a law that has some teeth and that will compensate homeowners that have been screwed. It's just not right, and it's an ongoing scam.
Right.
And then we are left to deal with very unfortunate, and in this case, elderly people with a language barrier. I mean, it's just awful. And we've got to find a way to have this happen less or not at all.
Yeah, I agree. And it seems as though for somebody who doesn't know about repairing old windows, rehanging them or stripping the paint and that type of thing, the easiest and perhaps the only way to that they continue to take a step forward is to just replace them. So it could be nice to have some more information about, out in the public about how to fix old windows. I mean, I don't know, if, Brian, if you can talk with them for all their remaining windows about some resources for what this could very likely be a cheaper process than replacing them, is just, stripping some of the paint off and rehanging the weights or whatever it takes to make those old ones functional. It seems like they could use some information in regard to that.
Yeah, I have shared window contractors with them, and the city's website does have resources for repairing wood windows. But you're right.
Yeah.
I should go further and help them make those connections.
Yeah, it's interesting. Right, I know those resources are there, but somehow people just the connection isn't made. Right. Yeah. So anyway, and it's not your fault either. I mean, this all happened before they contacted us. So I don't know how to make that connection better, but.
Well, people need to know they need to get a permit no matter what they're doing. That's part of the problem, because they would have automatically been referred to the commission.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I'd like to think that if they realized, how possible it is to fix them, that it could have been a cheaper option. They would have taken that route. It's very likely, I think. It's just, yeah.
All right. Are there any other questions for me this evening? There are no items of new business or old business.
I was just curious about, we approved a parking spot along University Avenue last meeting, and they started and it looks like it's at a halt at the moment, but it also looks like it's not for one car. So I don't know if there's issues or what. And I think the frame, the wall, the stone wall is maybe 2 feet from the house. So I wonder what's going on with that.
I will look into that. I think that was approved at maybe Megan's last meeting, so I'm not familiar with the project, but I can definitely look into the status and find out what's happening. If it's not being installed as approved, then that's an issue.
Okay. Has there been any progress on, is it on East State? The house, I don't, maybe it's not East State. I'm trying to remember. It's the stucco one. Like we dealt with it a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
We're
yeah,
trying
it
to do stucco replacement and
Right.
we dealt with them on the rear with the
porch.
level port. Did anything ever proceed with the stucco and the repair? Because it certainly needed to happen.
Yeah, so they repaired the stucco and the contractor did a reasonably good job and reconstructed the was it a 2-story porch or a 3-story porch in the rear?
2 or 3, I can't remember.
I think
I think you're right, Sue. I think it was 3.
But it's still owned by an absentee landlord, and they are required to have a local representative, but it doesn't appear that they have much interest in maintaining their property well. So it's still, they don't mow the lawn. The windows need repair. The stucco's starting to fail again. So I can look into that as well and maybe reach out to the property owner and see what they can do to at least clean up the property a little bit.
Yeah, I think I'm sure you already do this, but it's worth us having a list of properties that have not, because I think that the mitigation efforts that were able to happen over on Court Street on the corner, that saved a very important property, but it required a lot more legal time than is ideal. And with the affirmative and maintenance clause, it'd be great to kind of, in all your free time, Brian, I know you have, as we're going through the neighborhoods ourselves, as we're catching properties with issues, it's so much cheaper and better for the building if these problems can be caught before they get to dire circumstances that become very, very expensive.
Right.
So, and then it becomes an opportunity for us to promote sustainable, preservation-friendly practices, as opposed to getting to the point the replacement of something is necessary.
Right. Yeah, I'll absolutely reach out to the property owner and encourage them. One, remind them of the affirmative maintenance provision, but also encourage them to just do some routine maintenance around the property. And I can look up who the local property manager is as well and reach out to them.
Thank you.
Anything else? Can I have a motion to adjourn? Do we have a second?
I'll second it. It's already there. But Avi was quick on the take this time.
All in favor of adjournment? Put your hands up, please.
It was
Okay.
nice to see many of you in person this past week or last week. So
Yes, it was.
This was a hard one. This last one was very hard.
Misery.